How are you?
Fine, ma'am.
So, have you listened to the last week lectures?
Not fully, ma'am. We were having our exams, so not fully.
Okay. So, I will share the presentation. So, visible, right?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. So, last week again it was mainly neural system. So, do you remember what we were discussing in the last week, week 7?
Regarding the neuro diseases mainly,
Yeah. What all disorders we discussed?
Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, then ALS,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then,
Then then about the mechanism of the diseases where we were discussing about that.
yeah. Parkinson, ALS, then last final class, spinal cord injury, and about the glial cell we discussed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So today it's mainly regarding the stretch reflex circuit. So do you have any idea what is a stretch reflex circuit?
It is basically how the information is given by the sensors to the brain or the spinal cord, and how the response is received by the effector muscle.
Yeah, so stretch reflex, so it's mainly related the muscle and the nervous system connection and how nervous system connect with the muscle to initiate the action of stretching. So that is mainly the stretch reflex circuit. Hi Kushbu. So are you here for the first time? Can you please introduce yourself? You can text in the chat box also. Okay, I hope the message will come. Let's continue with the class anyway. So the first two lectures was mainly regarding the stress reflex circuit. Then it was a neuromuscular junction. Then the fourth lecture was mainly regarding the hearing system, how ear is able to perform the hearing as well as balance. Then final lecture was mainly regarding the olfaction system and especially regarding insects and how they are able to respond to chemical sensors, etc. So in the first class, so I started with the direction of propagation of uh, the circuit, how the stress reflex circuit is performed. So what is the first component that comes here in the stress reflex circuit? When all this action will start initiating, what is the first component?
Stimulus,
Yeah, stimulus. Stimulus is detected by whom?
sensory organs,
Okay, sensors. Then sensors send the signal to which part?
brain or the spinal cord,
Through what?
sensory neurons.
So through sensory neuron, it will reach the spinal cord. We are telling about the stretch reflex circuit. So it's mainly in the spinal cord. It is the motor neuron part, right? Here, the figure we can see that, right? So the motor neuron detected. Then what will happen after that? It will analyze the change. Then that change is passed to which type of neuron?
Interneuron,
Interneuron. There can be interneuron involvement or it can be direct also. Like just the sensory neuron, then spinal cord, then the effectors. But sometimes interneurons are also mediated. So that's why these two types of reflex comes. If it is a polysynaptic reflex, which means that these are mediated by the interneurons.
interneuron.
Yeah. And if it's monosynaptic, which means it's direct, just the sensory, then spinal cord, then the effector, right? So that is called as monosynaptic reflexes. Then basically about the stretch reflexes, now we know that sensory neuron send the signal to spinal cord or the interneuron to motor neuron. Then whatever the change will, then the stretching will happen in the muscle. And in the later lectures, we also go to know how muscles are able to respond to that changes and what are the fibers present, what are the receptors present, how the receptors are able to accept the change and process it to the these fibers. So we'll discuss in the next slides. Okay. So this was mainly regarding the lecture 1. Then in the lecture 2, it was mainly regarding, again, it was the continuation of stretch reflex circuit. So then we go to know about two important fibers that are present inside the muscle. What are those fibers? I guess we have a general introduction about these in the like the second lecture also, where we started with skeletal system, then muscle. So that there also we go to know what are these fibers. These are extrafusal fibers and intrafusal fibers. Can anyone tell me which is the most abundant fibers among these two?
Extrafusal.
Yeah, extrafusal. So intrafusal, what is intrafusal? It's less in amount, but these are like playing a very major role in the muscle. Uh, do you know? Any idea?
It's the sensors which sense the change in the length of the muscle.
Yeah, these are the sensors. So whenever there is a, we need to detect two types of changes, right? First is the impact, then next change is the change in the length of the total muscle. So that is mainly detected by the sensors. We always say sensors give that to sensory neuron. So that sensor part is coming here. It's one of the important sensors, intrafusal fibers. Then what is extrafusal fibers? Obviously, extrafusal fibers have some other. The majority these are the fibers. So definitely this have its own function. We'll discuss that. Then so now the change in length is detected by the sensor, and sensor will send it to the now the information. Suppose it reaches the interneuron, then interneuron will give pass to its motor neuron, right? So there are two types of motor neuron present. What are those? What are those motor neuron?
Alpha and gamma.
Yeah, alpha is connected with which muscle fiber among these two?
Intrafusal.
Sure,
Yes, ma'am.
alpha is connected to intra.
Sorry, ma'am. It's a gamma. Alpha is to the extrafusal muscle.
So change in length is detected by sensors, right? That sensors has one more name. So sir drew the figure and he showed where are those sensors. The sensors has one more name. Can you tell me?
Is it muscle spindle?
Yes. So muscle spindle is there. So muscle spindle is connected to always gamma neuron. Then there is alpha neuron which is connected to the extrafusal fibers, right? So all these changes then will make together like all together will happening in our body and which will make finally to the final result which is the stretching, right? So if you are telling about the final sequence of reflex arc circuit, what we can say connecting all these things, it will start with sensors, or now we know that those sensors are called muscle spindles. Muscle spindles will give the information to sensory neuron, which will reach in the spinal cord where it or interneuron. Then it will give to which type of motor neuron?
Alpha.
Alpha motor neuron, and the other fibers which will give the information to gamma motor neuron. Then these changes will be. So basically, if you're checking, we can see that started with the mechanical stimulus, converted to electrical stimulus. Electrical stimulus is coming at what stage of the circuit? What is the electrical stimulus? Mechanical is the change in length. It's a mechanical stimulus. Where is the electrical stimulus coming?
Is it within the neurons?
Yeah. Then it's again, finally, it's telling again to muscles, right? You do the stretching or do the relax, all these things are telling back to muscle. Then it's again coming back to mechanical stimulus. So starting with mechanical stimulus to electrical stimulus, again back to mechanical stimulus. So that's why MEMS, right? What is the full form of MEMS? Micro electromechanical stimulus, right? So these are the general conversion that is happening there. Then what happens in the next week, right? In the next lecture, what did sir taught? It was mainly regarding the action that is happening at the neuromuscular junction. So we know that at the end of the presynaptic neurons or all the neurons, there are some vesicles present which can store the chemicals that present called as neurotransmitters in a vesicle called synaptic vesicles, right? So these synaptic vesicles are there are a lot of synaptic vesicles which can release neurotransmitters present at the presynaptic neuron. Then what will happen whenever the change is detected by these neurons? They can open the neurotransmitters. They will start releasing the neurotransmitters. Suppose the presynaptic neuron is a neuron and the postsynaptic neuron is not a neuron-neuron connection. So now we are telling about stretch reflex arc circuit. So the postsynaptic part is basically the muscle which can detect these chemicals, right? So if it needs to detect the neurotransmitter or changes, there should be some receptors present, right? Otherwise, how will they can accept the chemicals and start propagation? So there are some receptors present. What are those receptors called? Do you remember? So suppose the neurotransmitters are cholinergic receptors. Then presynaptic neuron releases acetylcholine. This acetylcholine can be detected by some specific class of receptors. What are those receptors? It's even written here RHR DHP. What is this RHR and DHP? What is R stand for? Any idea?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so R stand for rhinodinine. Okay, so there are rhinodinine receptors also. Then DHPR means dihydropyridine receptors. So these two receptors are basically interlinked, right? You can see the green and the red dots in the figure. So what is the peculiarity? These receptors can detect the acetylcholine, and again these are connected to the channels present across the muscle channels. So whenever there is a these are detected by the released acetylcholine, these receptors will get activated, which will again connect it to one of the important organ. What was that organ? What was the first step that we learned in the sliding filament theory? Sliding filament theory always happens by the initiation of something, right? What is that thing? First step.
Binding of calcium to
Yes.
troponin.
Yeah, binding of calcium, which means that calcium needs to get released from some particular organ, right? Where is the storehouse of calcium in the muscles?
Sarcoplasmic reticulum.
Yes. So these receptors are basically connected to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. If you are going and checking with the structure of sarcoplasmic reticulum also, it is connected to the membrane. Okay. So these membrane receptors are connected to sarcoplasmic reticulum, where these changes are given to the reticulum, and these are like the initial point where these receptors are telling the sarcoplasmic reticulum to go and release calcium ions. Then it will release calcium ion. Then whole the sliding filament theory that we have learned in the second and third lectures will start happening. Did you got now what is happening there? It's easy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then also the structure of this thing is also very important. You can see the folding like that, right? So hold the muscle if it's coming. We if we are going and checking in the myotubes, it's like beginning from the first. So if you are checking the myotubes, suppose the information is coming here. So there are folding like this, which will and receptors are present across this. So this particular structure is also helpful in transmitting the signal from one end of the myotube to the other end of the myotube. So these are really interesting and go and read more about all these things. So basically this can be called as excitation coupling apparatus, right? Excitation is happened at the end by the there are neurons present, so the excitation by acetylcholine happens. Then these are coupled, so by the after the coupling effect, what will happen finally? The stretching of muscle will happen. So this is basically electrical excitation, then mechanical contraction coordinated by coupling apparatus. So that is whole thing that we have learned in the neuromuscular junction part. So keep all these things, important things in the mind so that it will be easy for you to solve the question. Then in the fourth lecture, it was mainly regarding the hearing system, right? So we have different types of senses that also are told in the general introduction of that class was what are the special senses? Can anyone tell me what are the special senses? What all senses we have? One is hearing. The other is eye works for what kind of senses?
Light.
Yeah, light. Then touch is there, right? Skin are basically working through the touch receptors. Then, other than that, smell. Smell is through.
Nose.
Huh. So there are special type of senses, and for detecting all these senses, there are special receptors also present across. And for uh, then these receptors or sensors detect the change, will send the information to the particular neuron and it will reach in the particular area of the brain. Even for each specialized senses, there is specialized area inside our brain cortex for detecting all these specific changes. For olfactory the receptors, there are the special types of olfactory cortex, and for detecting the vision there are visual cortex present across the brain, and for detecting the taste there are gustatory olfactory cortex nahi, olfactory bulbs. Olfactory bulbs are present for detecting the smell. For detecting the taste, there are gustatory part. So all these specific senses can be detected by the specific parts of the brain also. So that was the introduction that we have started that lecture with. Then it was mainly regarding the one of the senses, which is hearing. So do you know how many we can divide our ear into how many parts?
Three.
Yeah, starting with the we can see, right? Pinna. This is the external ear. Then there is a canal part, which is the middle ear, and in the middle ear we can see three soft bones, which is called as malleus, ingus, and stapes. So information starting from the external ear will pass to the middle ear, then it will pass through the malleus, ingus, and stapes. Uh, then there is also eardrum, right? So there are like all these things are very interesting. So eardrum will vibrate, which will makes the further vibration. Then finally these things will get connected to the. Basically, these are frequencies, the wave-like transmission. Sound is like a wave, right? So and then there is the inner ear. Inner ear, there is a specialized organ or the snail shell-like organ called cochlea. So in this cochlea, there are so many something are present across the whole cochlea. Do anyone know what is that? Hair cells. So these hair cells have two important part. One elongated some cells and there are multiple other parts. So do anyone remember what are those things called? some cilia. Again, one more hint. What cilia? Stereocilia and kynocelia. So basically, there is a one long cilia and there is numerous other shorter cilia. Basically, what will they do? They will have detect this direction and they will allow the signal to pass in the specific direction. So it will get passed through the cochlea. Finally, this part is connected to which part of the brain? There are neurons again connecting this part, right? So this frequency coding, this wave is there will be again a junction. So this signal will be sent to the like the particular neurons, which can be again sent to the like our hearing wherever. What is the part inside the brain that can detect the hearing? So ears can do basically two important function, and these two things are even going to two separate parts. Do anyone know what is the second function of ear?
Body balance.
Yeah, so body balance is mainly that neuron will go into which part of the brain?
Cerebellum.
Yeah, and the for hearing there is specific part inside the brain cortex for detecting the hearing thing, right? So that is about the hearing. Then the next class was mainly regarding it is called as auditory cortex. Sorry, I forgot. So auditory cortex is present, and that auditory cortex can detect the change. Then it will helps in the hearing process. For balancing, what is the structure present inside the cochlea that helps in the balancing part?
Utriculus and sacculus.
Yeah, utriculus and sacral combine together to form a particular structure. What is that structure? Otolith. So that otolith is made up of a specific salt, calcium carbonate. So otolith is made up of CaCO3. That also keep it in mind because every time question will repeatedly ask regarding this. Okay. Then also sir mentioned about one important application that is ear prosthesis. So have you seen? Suppose in some case there is some like all the up to the before the auditory cortex part, all the things that are coordinating the direction of the sound waves go damaged, or if some damage happen, suppose if at the receptor level, or suppose if at the cochlea level, or the hair cells maybe is not functioning properly. So in all these cases, only we have the effective auditory cortex there, all things are damaged. So such a case, scientists were very successful in building a artificial mic or ear processes, right? So basically these are electrical transmission only. So it acts as a mic. So it can detect all the sound waves that are coming up to before that neural and this junction. And this mic will collect all the sound and will pass it to the auditory cortex. So that was the first it was a very really good like what we say it is a really good advantage in the whole research field to get the application of such physics things inside our body, right? So so ear processes are really good important application. uh, then in the final lecture it was mainly regarding olfaction or the smelling. So basically for smell we have the nose, right? In the nose, there are receptors, so we can detect that smell, and then that receptors are connected to different types of neuron. That neuron is connected to the olfactory bulb inside our present inside the brain. So this will go on detect. So not only even the human beings or mammals, even if you're go on checking the insects level, you can see two long very thin hair-like structures, which are called as antenna. So in uh, antenna is a very sensory sensing apparatus. So it can detect different types of senses, and also there are different types of the olfactory receptors present across these. total antenna. And suppose, so there is a question, right? How we are able to detect different types of smells? Like I can detect the rose smell, I can detect jasmine smell differently, and everyone can detect different types of smell. If there is some bad smell, also we can detect. Oh, there is something called rotten. So for detecting all these smells, different types of smell, there are different types of sensors present inside our body. So all these receptors, whenever that particular thing will happen, it will get activated and that will send to particular neuron finally to the brain, and brain can detect the changes. Like that in antenna also, insects antenna also, there are different types of receptors present. So whenever there is some changes happen, it can that particular receptor will get activated and this information will be processed to the nervous system. So that is about antenna. Then, okay, there was an interesting question in the activity question in that lecture. The question was like this: if you are going to a perfume shop, you can see some coffee beans placed at every perfume shop. What is the reason? I felt it really interesting. Have you noticed that? Did you went to any perfume shop and can you see the coffee beans near? Why?
Not yet, no.
The question is why. Can you tell why? This,
Is it to differentiate between the smells?
so what happened in a perfume shop? There are like different types of perfumes, right? So after getting like different types of perfume, it's called as like finally after a time point, our body loses the ability to detect oh which smell is that, which smell is this. So in that condition, we need some components to absorb the extra like olfaction things. So coffee beans are an effective olfaction absorbers. So coffee beans have that power. That's why in every perfume shop, if you go and check, we can see coffee beans. So they can absorb the extra smell that is present at the particular place. So which is a really interesting thing. I also don't know that. Then I went and checked how these are happening. Right. So that is about the 5 lectures in the last week. Now we'll go ahead with the questions. So I will read the question. You can text in the chat box first, whichever the option you are feeling, then we'll discuss the question, okay? So first question. Which of the following cell type is a part of the peripheral nervous system? This is mainly regarding the last week also we discussed and sir have started this week lecture with saying this particular part. So try to recollect. Which is the important cell type that is seen across the peripheral nervous system, which means all the three others will be seen across the central nervous system. So option A, cortical neuron, option B, oligodendrocyte, option C, microglia, option D, Schwann cell. Okay, option B.
Schwann cells.
Okay, Arya is saying Schwann. Kushbu is also saying option B. Let's see who is correct, B or D. Correct answer is Schwann cell. Oligodendrocyte is present across the central nervous system. Function is basically same, but it can connect multiple neurons at the same time, and it is seen in the central nervous system. Basically, in peripheral nervous system, the protection of neuron is basically done by the main type of glial cell called Schwann cell. So Schwann cells are very essential part in the PNS, which can play essential role in the survival and function of neurons. And whenever there is some injury happen, Schwann cell, what will Schwann cell do? Schwann cells basically go rapid changes, and so their basal lamella provides a conduit for axon regrowth. So basically, these cells even can help in the activation of neuron during the injury also. So nerve regeneration, there is a active involvement of Schwann cell. Next question. If you have any doubts, okay, you can again ask.
The question is not visible, ma'am.
Yeah, now it's visible, right?
Now it's visible.
Which of the following best describes the order of signal conduction in the stretched reflex arc? Option A, sensory neuron to spinal cord or interneuron to motor neuron to effector. Or option B, sensory neuron to spinal cord to frontal lobe to motor neuron or ventral horn to effector. Option C, motor neuron to spinal cord to frontal lobe to sensory neuron to effector. Option D, sensory neuron to effector. What is the correct appropriate option? Kushbu replied. Come on. Arya also replied. Narendra, yeah, yeah, definitely correct answer is option A, right? Starting with the sensory to the spinal cord or the interneuron to the motor neuron to the effector. So we can see in the figure also. It's the same that we already discussed, right? Then to the next question. Muscle spindle is a dash that detects change in dash. Option A, neuron, which detect the concentration of ions in extracellular fluid. Option B, again it's a neuron, but it detects the concentration of ions in intracellular fluid. Option C, it's a stretch receptor, which detects the length of muscle. Option D, it's a stretch reflex circuit, which can detect the conduction velocity of muscle neuron. What is the correct option? Kushbu replied, Arya replied. Yeah. Yes, correct answer is C only. It's a stretch receptor or the sensor that is present, right? And it can basically detect in the length of the muscle. Here also in the figure you can see it's a muscle spindle. Which of the following muscle type is present in large number? Extrafusal fiber, option B, intrafusal fiber, option C, both are present in equal number, option D, none of the above. Yeah, everyone is saying A, which is correct, right? If you seeing in the figure also, we can see extrafusal fibers are very great in number compared to the intrafusal fibers. Which of the following is or are sensors? Extrafusal fiber, intrafusal fiber, both A and B, or none of the above? Arya texted. Kushbu and Narendra and Vaishnavi. We discussed, right? What is the sensor part? Huh. Yes, correct. So, correct answer is option B only. Basically, intrafusal fibers are the sensors or the muscle spindles. So, alpha motor neuron synapse on dash and gamma motor neuron synapse on dash. Option A, extrafusal fiber, extrafusal fiber. Option B, both are detects on extrafusal and intrafusal. Then option C, intrafusal and extrafusal. Option D, intrafusal and intrafusal. So, what is the correct answer? Arya replied. Yeah, everyone replied. Yeah, its correct answer is option B, right? We also discussed and also sir drew that figure also very in the lecture. So basically this can be divided into two types, which is alpha and gamma. Alpha always innervate extrafusal fiber and gamma always innervate intrafusal fibers. So next question is, which of the following is a part of the inner ear? Ear canal, stapes, eardrum, cochlea. Inner ear. Yeah. We also saw the figure also, right? Inner ear is basically it's a fluid filled sac which looks like the shell of a snail. That is called as cochlea. So basically, cochlea is a part of inner ear. Of the vestibular hair cells in ear, which of the following is taller? Which is the taller hair cell part? Kinocelia, stereocilia, dipterocelia, heliocelia. Yes, Narendra replied. Kushbu replied. Arya, you can guess. Yeah, so this is the figure. You can see here, right? The long cilia is called kinocelia. And multiple, the abundant shorter ones are called stereocilia. So next question also it's important. So just keep this in the mind. Longer one is kino and smaller ones, multiple ones are stereo. Of the vestibular hair cells in the ear, which of the following are more in number? Now the question is regarding number. Which one is more in number? Yeah. We already see the figure, right? So I don't need to go back. Answer is B only, stereocilia. Otolith present in ear is made up of hydroxyapatite, potassium oxalate, sodium chloride, calcium carbonate. Yeah, we discussed, right? It is a structure that is made up of calcium carbonate. So that is about the week 8 sample questions. Now you can go back and try to finish all the assignment question. Okay. So now we'll discuss the last week 7 solution that came. Then we'll go and again go back to the second week question solution discussion. Because in last week we discussed third week. So according to that, this week we'll again discuss the second week solution. So first let us discuss last week assignment solution. So again the first question is, which part of the brain is majorly affected by Alzheimer's disease? Substantia nigra, hypothalamus, hippocampus, Port-Singer complex. Arya replied. Kushbu replied. Okay. Yeah, correct is hippocampus. In Alzheimer's disease, it's we know basically people will start losing the memory, right? So the neurons present in that particular part of the area will start dying off. So which is the memory center? That is definitely hippocampus. So option C is the correct answer. Hippocampus, right? Then so first it will affect hippocampus. In the final, like later progress, as the disease progresses, more neurons will start dying off from the cerebral cortex also. So first it will start with the hippocampus area. What happens to neurons in Alzheimer's disease? Cells body become larger, cells body starts to die off first. Processes become demyelinated but alive while cell bodies die off. Processes starts to die off. What is the correct answer? Arya replied. Kushbu replied, okay. Narendra, Okay, so basically answers are B, D, and B. So B is cells body starts to die off first. Option D is processor starts to die off first. Basically, so if you go back and remember like the lecture that where we discussed the Alzheimer's disease, we can see he drew the figure, right? So he is basically showing cytone body or cell body is still there, but the axon or the long processes they will get loosened or the elasticity will lose due to the deposition of that protein, which can be tau or amyloid beta, right? So in tau or amyloid beta deposition will start happening at the processes fast, then which will lead to the uh, so what is dying of first? Correct answer is option D. So first is due to the deposition of tau and amyloid beta, processes will start die of first. CA1, CA2 and DG are part of which part of the brain? Substantia nigra, hypothalamus, hippocampus, Free-Botzinger complex. Okay. Maria replied. Pushpu replied. And also replied. So basically answers are C, A and C. Okay. What is the correct answer? We have seen the horseshoe shaped structure and it have three part, right? Do you remember? So basically answer is C, hippocampus. It is divided into head, body and tail, where head is a expanded part. Head is basically area is wide and tail is like the horseshoe shape, right? So tail part is basically thin curved. And if you are checking the cells there or type of the tissues present there, we can then people divide it into three, which is CA1, CA2, CA3, and CA4 also there. And the dentate gyrus are the part where we can see stem cells of the neuron. So basically answer is C. Which of the following is not a neurotransmitter? Easy question. Islets of Langerhans, serotonin, GABA, glutamic acid. What is the correct answer? Yeah. Kushbu. Yeah. Correct, right? We know serotonin, GABA, and glutamic acids are neurotransmitters. But islets of Langerhans is present across which part of the body?
Pancreas,
What is it responsible for?
producing the hormones,
Yeah. What all hormone?
insulin, glucagon, and stomatostatin.
Yeah. Correct. So we know all these things are neurotransmitters are chemicals that are stored in the synaptic vesicles across the neurons, which will helps in the since these are neurons are not directly connected, the chemical type of transmission is happen through the release of neurotransmitters. And there are different types of neurotransmitters, which include there are acetylcholine, glutamate, GABA, glycine, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Among these, some are excitatory in nature and some are inhibitory in nature. So we have learned all these things, and we know that island of Langerhans is present across pancreatic cell. As Arya said, it's responsible for endocrine function like release of insulin, glucagon, etc. Next question. Neurons of which of the following area is majorly affected by Parkinson disease? Substantia nigra, hypothalamus, hippocampus, Free-Botzinger complex. Everyone said option A. Yeah, we have seen that, right? Parkinson is basically a defect. It will create defect in motor activity or our movement. So basically our movement, all these things are basically coordinated by the substantial nigra. So correct answer is option A. So what is the main type of neuron that is present across substantial nigra? Which type of neurotransmitter? Sorry?
Dopaminergic neuron.
Yeah, dopaminergic neuron. And it's also, we can otherwise say this is a disorder that is happened to the reduced level of dopamine, right? And here one extra point also have written in the solution, which is projection from substantial nigra to glutamine called nigrostriatal pathway are the major pathway involved in the Parkinson disease. So just keep it in mind. Which function is lost in Parkinson disease? Memory, motor activity, hearing, or vision? Yeah, correct answer is motor activity. We just discussed. So basically, it's a disorder caused uncontrolled movements. We are unable to control our movements, right? Some like unintended movements can occur due to the disorder. It includes shaking, stiffness of the body, and even difficulty in balance and coordination also. Which function is lost in Alzheimer's disease? Option A, memory. Option B, motor activity. Option C, hearing. Option D, vision. This only we discussed right just now. Oh, sorry, that was Alzheimer's. Okay, what is the answer? You guys are really smart. You know everything. So, yeah, memory, right? Uh, ALS is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson disease, Alzheimer's disease, myasthenia gravis. Yeah, correct answer is Lou Gehrig's disease. Can anyone tell me why the name comes from? Why Lou Gehrig's disease? Who is this person? Any clue?
Is it the person who identified the disease?
Okay, let's see. I will discuss later. Khushbu or Narendra, do you have any opinion on this? Who is this particular person? No? No. Okay. So this is basically not the person who invented the disorder, but it is it was a famous baseball player. So actually, that baseball player died of due to this particular disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. After that, people starts calling this in his name. So that's why Lou Gehrig's disease. Like it's the person who died of due to this disorder. Who's a famous person? Then reduced level of DASH in the brain was seen to cause Parkinson disease. Pyramidal neuron, dopamine, optic nerve, glutamate. Everyone is saying option B, 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 B. It's correct. It's dopamine because the majorly dopaminergic neurons present across the substantial nigra are start dying off. As a result, dopamine's level will reduces in the body. Mm. So you can read the explanation also. If you have doubt in explanation also, you can ask. Okay. Okay. I will ask one extra question since we are discussing these things. So, what is the therapy that is available for treating this particular disease? Since you said dopamine is the major neurotransmitter.
L-DOPA therapy.
Yeah. What this therapy does?
It provides L-DOPA to the patient. L-DOPA is a precursor to dopamine, which can cross the blood-brain barrier and reach the brain
Yeah,
and convert dopamine wherever required.
yes, very good. Levodopa is a precursor of dopamine. So we cannot give directly dopamine because it cannot cross blood-brain barrier, but levodopa can cross blood-brain barrier and thus it will cause some cure to the disease. Sphingomyelin in myelin sheath is made up of dash. What? Carbohydrate, protein, vitamin, or lipid? Yeah, everyone said na. No, Kushbu. Yeah, everyone has same answer as D. So it's a phosphocholine and or it's a sphingophospholipid, right? So basically that is a lipid only. It's a phospholipid. So now we have discussed the week 7 also. I guess this is helping you to remember the previous lectures also. Finally, it will be helpful for solving the answers, right? Yeah, we'll start solving that. So now we'll go and check back to the week 2 assignment discussion questions. So do you remember what was the topic that we learned in week 2? It was the skeletal
About
system.
about the skin, we learned about the skin, the nails.
The like that was the first lectures last week, like last fifth lecture was the integumentary system. Then we started off with the like there are two, three, I think two lectures was integumentary followed by the skeletal system. So in this week, okay, what is the answer? Did you guys answer? Which pigment in our body absorb UV rays? Keratin, chlorophyll, melanin, melatonin, elastin. Everyone is saying option B. Yeah, correct. Because how melanin is able to protect? We know that in the skin there are again 5 layers and melanin is seen in the particular layer which again helps in the pigmentation and also it helps in the absorption of UV also. Which of the following is in our body is directly linked with sunlight? Vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C and vitamin D. Mm, yeah, vitamin D is the correct answer. So what is the major source of vitamin D? It's a synthesis of a compound called cholecalciferol, which is present in the lower layers of our epidermis. So basically, it's a photo reaction. It can convert the UV light from that. Uh, so it's basically a photochemical reaction. Next question. Appendage that connect muscle to bone, ligament, tendon, cartilage, nephron. B. Okay. Okay. B, B, and C. Tendon and cartilage are down. Okay. Question is muscle to bone. So basically, muscle to bone is connected by tendon. Tendons basically connect muscle to bone. What is the thing that connect bone to bone? Option are there.
Ligament.
Yeah. So just give some hints, some clues with this. I know this is confusing. Muscle to bone and bone to bone. Bone to bone are ligament and muscle to bone are Muscle to bone are
Tendon.
ah. So which of the following categories does stomach belong to? Stomach, GCC. Sure. What is the system associated with when the system, organ system level of the stomach comes from? What is that system called?
Digestive system.
So stomach is a, let's see, is stomach is a organ. It's a organ, okay, but I have given the option as explanation is organ only, but I have accidentally given it as B. Let me correct it. Yeah. So which of this not a muscle type? Skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, rough muscle. What is the correct answer? Everyone is saying option D. Yeah. All other muscle we have learned also what are the function, everything, right? So option D, rough muscle is not a type of muscle. Human hair is mostly made up of carbohydrate, lipid, flax, protein. What type? Everyone is saying option D, 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 D. Yeah, option D is the correct answer. What is that protein called?
Keratin.
Yeah. Where all where all else we can see keratin in our body?
Nails.
Yeah. Good. So it's basically produced from the dermis layer of the skin. That is the basic unit of life. I know everyone will answer this. Yeah. What is the answer? Cell, right? Cell will join together to form tissue, tissue will join together to form organ, organ to organ system, then a complete organism. Next is plasma membrane is a dash sulfated monolayer, phospholipid bilayer, rigid structure, red colored structure. What is plasma membrane? Yeah, it's a phospholipid bilayer, right? It is made up of phospholipid and it have like head and tail and head have hydrophilic or hydrophobic property. Head and tail. Huh? Do you remember which side of the cytoplasm is hydrophilic?
Head is hydrophilic and the tail is hydrophobic.
Yeah. So, which of the following joint allow the movement in multiple planes? Ball and socket, hinge joint, pivot joint and hinge joint, none of the above. Multiple movement. We can move everything in any way. Everyone is saying ball and socket, which is the correct answer. So it's basically a synovial joint, right? It have a fluid seen inside the particular type called synovial fluid also. So this is capable of doing multiple type of movement in multiple planes. Where is this located in our body?
The shoulder joint.
Knees. Okay. Shoulder. What is this joint called? This is fine. What is this joint called?
No, ma'am. Ball and socket is the shoulder joint.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what is this one?
That is hip joint.
Yeah. Okay. Then what all joints are there? What is the hip joint? Where is the hip joint?
That is also ball and socket.
Uh, what is the joint that present in the neck?
Pivot joint.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this is the last slide. Yeah. So today we discussed basically started with sorry Usma, can you mute yourself? So we have started with 8 week model questions, then 7th week assignment solution, followed by second week assignment solution. So if you have any doubt in the 8 week lectures or anything, you can ask me now. Then we'll end the session. Is there any question? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
So can we end the session today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then bye. See you in next class. Okay, bye. See you.
Bye.